right, so for this project, we're going to do a study using analogous colors. And remember, that is 3 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. You can choose whatever you want as far as objects or even your cat or your dog, but there has to be at least 2 things in the photograph. So I photographed this vintage fan and a mason jar, and I took that photograph and turned it into black and white and then printed it. I made sure that there is a full range of values, so from light to dark. In this photograph, you guys can see there's plenty of light, there's darks, and then there's those ranges of gray in between. Once I've done that, I'm going to go through the image and I'm going to draw around all of the different transitions and values. So you're going to end up with a lot of abstract shapes in your picture. So you can see that I'm just circling around or tracing around these different values. Every time it switches to another value, I just draw around that shape that's being created. And you're going to go ahead and go through all of the photograph, even the background, and mark those transitions in value. Once that's completed, you're going to take your carbon paper. The shiny side goes down, face down, and you're going to trace your image onto your visual journal page. I taped my original photo down onto that visual journal so it doesn't slide around. And then I'm just tracing the image, and in that I'm also tracing all of those little abstract shapes that we just made, all of those changes in value. I'm tracing those as well. So you can see I'm just going over the whole photograph and tracing all of it. And sometimes I'm checking my work just to make sure I'm not missing anything as I trace. Try to keep it as accurate as possible. And you can see here, I'm checking it, making sure that it looks accurate as I go along. And then once that's done, I'm just going to take that carbon paper out and take off my original photograph, and voila, there is the image that I'm going to be working from. Now I need to figure out what analogous color scheme I want to use. I chose blue, green, and green for mine. And I am checking now the values from those value scales that I made last week. And I'm seeing which values from the original photograph line up with that value chart that I made. And then I'm kind of marking the number lightly on those shapes in the image. So you can see I'm drawing 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, and that corresponds with the numbers on my value chart. Again, we only did 6 steps. If you want to do more, you could do 9 or even 11 to give you a fuller range of values. Go for it. That's totally up to you. So I'm just figuring out what values go where. Once we start painting, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to use our analogous colors. What placement are they going to be in the painting? So I have to figure out, am I using blue or blue-green or green for my background color, for the jar? So you have to do a little bit of thinking ahead of time to kind of map out what colors you're going to use and where you're going to apply them. And then in terms of the value ranges, that's straightforward, right? You have that already mapped out on the photograph and mapped out on your visual journal page. So now I'm just going to start painting. These are not paintings that are blended, right? We're actually going to leave all of those little shapes that we made that every time a value changes. we're going to leave those kind of in their raw form. So you don't need to blend your paint at all. It's almost like paint by numbers. You're just going to paint those shapes in. Also, you'll probably have to do 2 layers of paint for this. So get those colors down and then go back and mix those colors. Again, that can be challenging. Mix your colors again to match and paint a second layer so that they're not translucent. You want them to be opaque. So I'm mapping everything out according to the numbers that correspond with my value scales. Normally in a painting situation, if you were doing this on canvas, you would paint your background first and then draw in your image on top of that. That way you're not like piecing it all together. But these are studies and really just meant to get you comfortable with mixing paint and understanding paint color schemes. So we're not going to be too worried about technique and the proper way to do things. Again, these are studies just to get you comfortable with how to mix colors. You'll also notice that I did not use any green out of the tube. So if you have any green tubes of paint, you're not allowed to use them. I want you to be able to make your own green. Same thing with purple and orange. So we're mixing all of our own colors for these assignments. You can see it's starting to come together, and you can see those little abstract shapes are pretty evident. Again, we're not blending. So you guys can just finish watching this video and kind of see it coming together. But notice where I'm placing those 3 different colors. So again, you have to choose where you want, in my case, blue, where you want the greens, and where you want the blue-greens. Again, pre-planning a little bit, thinking that out before you begin, because you are working with 3 colors and the different values of all of those colors. So for me, I decided to do the background in green. So that's the table that my objects are sitting on, and then also that background space, the wall space in the background in green, and then the fan in blue, green, and blue, along with the jar. So don't be nervous when you are first starting and it looks it doesn't look super clean at first. Once you've finished the whole thing and done second coats and gotten all of your shapes in really smoothly, it'll come together and end up looking really cool. Okay guys, so that is your analogous color scheme study. Have fun with it. Choose 3 colors that you like and choose at least 2 objects for your project. Get to work.